All righty. Welcome. Okay, so we're going to start today in supported butterfly. So I like to use a bolster to lie back on and maybe grab your blocks. Um, I also just always have like a blanket for my sacrum every time I lay down. It's just kind of nice to have extra cushion, but you don't have to do that. So supported butterfly is basically um, soles of your feet together, knees open, and then lying down. So that's why I like to have the bolster behind me so that, and I usually kind of bring it right up to the tailbone and then lie back onto it. And then your blocks are there to support your outer thighs. So, an external rotation of the hips. So, like when we let our hips open, can feel pretty intense if we don't have like a ton of hip mobility, which um, some of us don't. And if you need to, just put a little bit of length in the low back. When you come onto your back, think lift your hips off the ground and think about reaching your tailbone forward and then release the hips back down. And your arms can just fold down by your sides. Or if you want a little bit more in the upper body, you could let your arms open wide. Or you could also even take your arms, reach them back behind you, and grab opposite elbows. So, really allowing the front of the body to open up here and the back of the body to relax. You can close your eyes or you could keep a soft gaze. Or maybe you just start to tune into this internal world, listening into the prominent thoughts. Just recognizing what is it that's coming with you to the mat. I've been feeling a little tired all day, so that's the energy that I'm bringing to my mat. And that's just an example of just kind of acknowledging how it is that we're arriving. Like, okay, I'm a little tired. And we just do this to really invite kindness into our practice where we just accept ourselves as we are. We don't have to come here to fix or change anything at all. We're just here to receive the benefits of this practice. So let's take a slow breath in together through the nose. And then a slow breath out, let it go. Do that again. Breathing in through the nose, fill yourself up with air. And sigh it away. And then this time, breathe in slowly in through the nose, dragging the breath along the back of your throat. Keep the lips sealed and then just slowly exhale back out through the nose. And maybe take a couple more rounds of breath just like that, lengthening the breath, really only doing this with the intention to bring our awareness to our breath. And when we slow down our breath, we help bring our nervous system into rest and digest. So away from fight or flight, which just putting the news on can put us in a reactive state, like fight or flight. So the breath helps us come back to that window of tolerance. And if the breath doesn't serve you here, you can always just let go of that and just tune into sounds. Or you could tune into the sensations in your body. Maybe noticing how your feet feel, how your legs feel, the hips, the low back, mid back, upper back, torso. Might feel the breath there again. Shoulders, chest, arms, hands, your neck, your jaw, forehead. And just invite a sense of softening and so letting go. Just letting the body relax here. Take a couple more breaths. And if you have your arms overhead, maybe just start to let your arms open wide like a position T. And then let your arms come down by your sides. And then just start to reach your arms forward, kind of like you're reaching towards the ceiling. And then reach them back behind you. And then cactus the arms. So bend the elbows. And just kind of start to let your arms move in these circular motions, letting the arms reach down and then up towards the ceiling and then back, reaching back behind you, and then cactus the arms. And just do that a couple more times. Maybe you even feel like reversing directions. You could go up and then forward and then down, and then let the palms face up as you kind of bring them up through cactus arms. Just feel free to like be a little curious here and let it feel new, unfamiliar. So just opening up through the shoulders and chest, pecs. And then after your next one, just let your arms release down by your sides. Start to plant your feet, so let your knees draw together. You can walk your feet a little wider, just letting the legs come in that constructive rest pose. And then drop your knees off to the right. So you kind of roll over onto the right side of your body on that bolster. And then let's twist ourselves around. So lift your chest so that your right hand is now on the right side of your mat, left hand is on the left side, and then drape your right rib cage onto the bolster. So like twisted supine twist, or if you want to take like twisted deer, draw the right knee towards your chest and let the left knee kind of, or left foot reach back behind you. So the legs are basically just separated. I feel like I'm more restorative than yin, just because the sensation is pretty mellow. But there's nothing obviously wrong with that. It's just, again, just this place to let yourself receive, rest. And let's take a couple more rounds of breath here. Breathing in and breathing out. Nice. Take one more inhale. One more exhale. And then just come out slowly. You could even just kind of press yourself up and come onto your right side and then roll onto your back. Maybe taking a moment to just pause on your back before going to the other side. So letting the low back settle. Well, then when you're ready, you might drop the hips over to the right slightly and the knees to the left. Roll over to the left and then find that twist so that you kind of lift up through the chest first, like a twisted upward facing dog, and then let your left rib cage come down to the ground. You could draw your left knee closer towards your chest and the right foot back a little further if you want that deer option, getting just a little bit more into the hips if you take that variation. And see if there's anywhere that might be holding tension. That could even just be in the mind. Most of the time it's in the body, but we sometimes don't realize how much we hold up in the mind or how much grasping really comes from the thoughts. So when that happens, come back into the body. Maybe feel the breath moving. You could add a mantra to your breath on the inhale, just saying the word here. And as you exhale, saying the word now. Here, now. Here, now. One more breath in. And then one more breath out. And start to slowly unwind. You can press into the hands and lift up through the chest. And then start to turn yourself around so that you're facing the front of your mat. Feet planted, your chest is lifted. Bring your hands behind you and then maybe just let your knees go from side to side a couple times. And then when you feel like that's enough of that, let your legs extend out long. And we're going to fold over our legs. So if you feel like you want to lift your hips a little bit, you can elevate them with a blanket. You could even sit on a bolster. I'm going to fold my blanket one more time so that I get a little bit more lift. And as you fold, I try to make sure that you're keeping some length in that low back and the lumbar spine so that as you hinge forward, when you start to feel the sensation on the back of your legs, you can round from really the mid back and then the upper back. And if you have blocks, you can always bring some blocks down and place them under your forehead. Maybe a little bend in the knees. And this is one of those poses where like we do want to relax our muscles when we're in yin, but I will just try to make sure that my toes are pointing directly up towards the ceiling. So there's a little bit of muscle engagement. But very, very little, so that we can still try to lubricate our connective tissues, joints and ligaments, tendons. And if this pose for some reason doesn't work in your body, like it's just causing pain in your low back, you can always do this standing on your feet and just come into a forward fold. So we want to target our hammies, our hamstrings, rather than our low back. Just as I did this, I realized this is much better for me, so I'm going to stay here. And I like to place my heels on a blanket so that my weight is kind of rolling forward naturally onto my toes. And you can place blocks under your forehead if you're taking this option. About 3 more breaths. Let's take one more breath in and out. And then wherever you are, start to roll up. If you are on your feet, just sit your hips down into a squat. If you are seated, just let yourself rise up. Take a moment to just be tall in the spine. Breathing in and out. And let's find our way to all fours. We'll come into a tabletop position, hands and knees. And just take some time to move a little bit through some cat-cows. So, or if you feel like you are craving something else, something different, feel free to just move your body or be still. Give yourself about 1 to 2 more breaths. And let's come into a melting heart. So from tabletop, walk your hands out long towards the front of your mat. So hips are reaching back towards the heels, and then you'll start to lower the forehead and chest towards the floor. It's okay if the chest doesn't touch the floor. And you can also bend your elbows as much as you need here. You can let your elbows go wider if that feels better. And there's always the option too to do one arm at a time. And if you want that, you can bend your left elbow, rest your forehead on that left forearm, and just keep the right arm reaching forward. And I'll let you know when we're halfway through. If you feel like your knees need some support, like mine do right now, place a blanket under your knees. And then breathe. This one can feel intense. I tend to find that I lock my jaw when I'm in this one. So see if you can soften the jaw, maybe even separating the lips can help with that. And if there's any tingling at all in the arms or any numbness, just bend both elbows and stack your hands on one another. And if it's still not working, you can just take child's pose. We're about halfway through now, so if you did one arm at a time, you can switch. If you're in melting heart with both arms extended and you feel like you want more sensation, you can see what it feels like to bring your chin to the mat. You still need more sensation. The arms can walk a little bit closer towards one another. Breathe. And let the heart open. Think about the back of your heart opening as well. Or maybe instead of thinking open, just think soften. Last little bit, about 2 more breaths. Take one more inhale. And then slowly come all the way onto your belly. And just let your arms rest down by your sides, reaching them back, and just gaze off to your left or your right, whichever side, doesn't matter. So let the shoulder heads relax. If you want your low back to have a little release, you can bend your knees and just let your feet go side to side. So we'll go into a shoulder rinse from here. So right arm extends out to the right with the palm facing down. You can also cactus your right arm. So maybe play around with which one you prefer. I'm going to cactus my right arm. Plant your left hand, bend your left knee, and then roll over onto the right side of your body. So your left leg kind of acts like a kickstand. We'll be here only in 1 minute. If it feels like too much to have that left foot back behind you, you can stack them on one another. And if it feels like too much to have the right elbow bent, you could extend it out long. If the cactus arm is working for you and you want a little bit more sensation, you could even inch the right fingertips forward a little bit. And keep breathing. And if you want more, you could take the left hand to the low back for a little half bind for just this last breath. Take one more inhale. And then slowly start to make your way back onto your belly. Let your arms just come down by your sides. Look over to the right and just take a moment to pause before we go into the other side. Letting the right arm just relax, maybe wiggling the fingers. And then we'll come into the other side. So extend your left arm out. You can cactus the left arm or straighten it. Look to the right, plant your right hand, and then roll over into the left side of your body. Right leg can act like a kickstand, or you can just stack the legs on one another. So with the cactus arm, for me, it feels much more intense, but I also feel like I get more out of it with my arm like that. So just be really mindful if you need to straighten out the left arm, you don't have to cactus it. I'll only be here 1 minute total. So at any point, if you feel like you need more sensation, you could even walk the left fingertips forward if the elbow's bent. Or you could take the right hand to the low back. One more breath in. And as you exhale, take it slow, come all the way back onto your belly. Let your arms come down by your sides again and just look to the left. And relax through the shoulder heads. Again, if you want to bend the knees and let the feet go side to side, you can do that. And then plant your hands down. So your hands are kind of close to the ribs. Let your forehead come down and just take one round of baby cobra. Start to lift the chest off the ground. And then think about drawing shoulder blades together. You can even press into the hands. Maybe let the head rock a little side to side and then slowly release that down. Go into a child's pose. We won't be here too long, but let your knees open wide. You can stretch the arms forward. Or if you need something a little bit more chill for your shoulders, just reach the hands back towards your heels. And if you want a prop, you can bring a bolster under your belly. We'll be here about 2 minutes, 2.5 minutes. And breathe. Might rock your forehead side to side if your forehead's on the ground. And again, just softening through the jaw. Maybe even see if you can relax your neck. Feel the weight of your body. Feel the breath moving. Couple more breaths. Take one more breath. Start to walk your hands in towards your knees and then rise up slowly, bringing your hips over your heels, shoulders over hips. Sit up nice and tall. You can bring the knees a little closer in towards each other. And we're going to do a little bit for our feet and ankles. So you'll sit hips onto your heels and maybe start to kind of wiggle a little side to side so that the heels slide out. And then start to walk your hands back behind you and keep a nice long spine, straighten up through the spine. And then start to lift your right knee off the ground. So if it feels better for you to have your heels underneath you instead of sliding them out, maybe you try that first and then lift the right knee off. You want to feel a stretch through the front of your right ankle. You can also take your right hand to the right knee and lift it up like that. I have pretty short arms, so it's just not very easy for me, but you can always try it. And so we're just stretching through the front of the right ankle. So it might feel better for you to have the heel out or underneath the glute. We won't be here very long, just a couple more moments. Take a breath in. And release, right knee down. Switch, lift your left knee up off the ground. So as you'll notice, like my knee is not coming off the ground very high. It doesn't have to come high to feel sensation on the front of the ankle, as you'll probably notice. It can feel intense as long as there's no pain, then that is good. Discomfort or being uncomfortable is part of yin, to be totally honest. We're pushing our edge and adding stress to these connective tissues that are not very plastic or elastic like our muscles. They are more plastic. Don't bend very easily. So be really gentle. We're here just a couple more moments. Take a breath in. Nice, and then release the left knee down. Walk your hands forward. Come onto all fours, find tabletop. And then tuck your toes underneath you. And then start to press back, hips over heels. Take it really slow so you can keep your hands on the ground for as long as you want. And at any point, you can come all the way up, stacking all the weight over the feet. One minute here, which we're already about halfway through. So again, if at any point feels like too much, let your hands release back to the ground. And especially since we did the ankle stretch, it could feel that way. Let's take one more breath in. And exhale. Walk your hands back forward, coming into tabletop, and then tap the tops of your feet pretty rigorously on top of your mat. Shake all that energy out. Roll up the ankles or shake them out off the ground too. And then let's take that blanket, support your knees with it. We're gonna come into a lizard lunge. We'll do a little series here. So from tabletop, make sure your blocks are at the front of your mat. That you'll want those. Left knee supported by your blanket, and then step the right foot forward, find a lunge. And then start to find your blocks so you can stay upright with your fingertips just kind of barely on top of the blocks, and start to sink the hips forward a couple times. Maybe you kind of rock a little forward and back. And then when you find like a comfortable position, stay there. And you can always, maybe it feels better to have your right foot a little wider. So the right foot's towards the outside edge of the mat and your right arm is on the inside of your right leg. So we're going to do each side for 2 minutes. And in between sides, we're going to add a squat. So we're kind of helping prepare us for a malasana squat. So you could even start to turn the right toes out. If that feels okay for your right hip, and let the right knee kind of open wide. You can lower your blocks down a setting if that feels okay. Just be really mindful here. Keep your breath flowing. One more minute, about 10 more breaths. Notice any emotions that maybe come up to the surface for you here, and just noticing them with that same open and curious, kind manner, the way we did at the beginning of class, just acknowledging what our energetic state was at that point. Let's take a breath in and out. Let's start to make our way back up to the hands. If you're on your forearms, take a half splits first. So just kind of let your hips glide back, straighten through the right leg, maybe plant the right foot. And it might feel kind of nice to take a cat cow right here. So you could breathe in and find cow, and as you exhale, find a cat spine. You can even kind of stretch the back of the leg as you do that, especially in cow. And then find tabletop pose. Bring the right knee down. And then just straighten out your right leg, come to the ball of your right foot, and press back through your right heel for a moment. Just getting a little calf stretch, a little static stretch through the back of that right leg. And then release your right knee down and step your left foot forward to the outside of your left hand. And we'll take our next side. So again, same thing. If you want to kind of let your hips go forward and back a couple of times before really settling in. You could let the left toes turn out. And breathe. About one more minute here. So really keep the breath steady. Notice if you need to shift anything or just change anything around with your position. Maybe you're feeling like there's a lot less sensation and you want to keep moving towards that edge of slight discomfort. Really just moving towards the edge of sensation, not discomfort. Let's take another breath in and out. Start to make your way back up to your hands if you are on the forearms, and find that half split. Just let your hips glide back, straightening through the left leg. You could place your hands under your shoulders and maybe take a couple rounds of cat-cows. And then straighten or extend your left leg back behind you. So just come to the ball of the left foot and press back through your left heel this time. Take a breath in and a breath out. And then release your left knee down. So from here, step your right foot forward again, like you're going to come back into a runner's lunge. And then this time, step the left foot forward to the outside of your left hand. So I'll face you so you can see me. Start to turn your toes out, heels in. Take one of those blocks so that it's horizontal and on the second setting, and start to bend your knees and sit your hips back onto that block. Letting the knees open. And you can just keep your hands at heart center. And just make sure you're comfortable. If for some reason this feels like there's no way I can hold this for a long period of time, you can do happy baby lying on your back, or you could take this position and just lie on your back, but put your feet up on the wall. So it's like a happy baby, but using the wall. We're going to be here for about 2.5 minutes. We're already 30 seconds in. About 2 more minutes. You can keep hands at heart, or even just let your arms relax. Just try to keep a nice long spine. And try not to let the knees cave in. And if having the feet wide doesn't feel good and you want to have your toes pointed forward and that feels better for you, try that too. I'm really feeling grounded here. Using every part of this pose to feel grounded into the earth. Both feet flat on the ground. Our seat is connected, our root chakra connected. Maybe start to feel the lift, the rising up through the spine and up through the crown of the head. See if you can maybe imagine the breath moving all the way up from the tailbone, all the way up to the crown of your head. And as you exhale from the crown of the head down to the tailbone, or you could do the opposite direction, breathing in, crown of your head down to the tailbone. And then breathing out, tailbone, all the way up to the crown. So as you breathe out, you move up. As you breathe in, the breath moves down, which is actually what really happens with our diaphragm. Soften the belly. It's a nice pose for low back pain if you're ever having that. Take about 2 more rounds of breath. And then start to bring the hands in front of you towards the ground. Press through the feet so you can slide that block out from underneath you, and then walk the hands behind you and let your seat come down. Let your legs extend out. Maybe give the legs a little shaky shake. And coming to our last little bit here. So, a couple options I want you to take what's best for you. So, we're going to focus on the glutes now since we did kind of everything else in the body. So, um, starting with the right leg on top, you can cross your right leg over and find shoelace. So, you can bend your bottom leg and take shoelace. Sometimes shoelace doesn't feel good. So instead, you could do square pose, cross your right leg in front of your left, and then you could place the right foot on top of the left leg and place a block in between the right knee and the left foot if there's a big gap like mine, and hands could go behind you. And then last option would really be like pigeon pose or figure four on your back. So we all know pigeon, with that right leg back, right leg forward, left leg back, and the back leg straight, and figure four would be right ankle over. So pick your favorite. And I'm going to do square. And I'm going to place a bolster in between my right knee and that left foot, and probably just stay upright through my spine. And you can always prop your seat up a little higher. So you could fold a blanket under your seat so that your hips are elevated, especially in this one, can feel pretty intense. So I saved the most intense for last. Whenever you settle in, you can let your eyes close or keep a soft gaze. You can fold if you're taking square or shoelace or pigeon. You can fold forward at any point if that helps bring more sensation, which if that's what you're seeking. So notice, pay really close attention to what you're feeling in the body. Maybe describe whatever that sensation is. So it could be like coolness or warmth. It could feel like pulling or pressure. If there's any kind of jabbing pain or tingling, it's just a good indication to come out a little bit. Last little bit, about 5 to 8 more breaths, depending how slow you count. Steady breath. Let's take a collective slow inhale. And exhale, let it go. Nice. Make your way back up if you folded at all. And if you're in a seat, you can just walk the hands behind you and plant your feet. If you're like in a pigeon, maybe down dog, tabletop. And you can just take any kind of counter pose. I'm going to just let my knees go side to side. And then take Take as much time as you need. Let your legs straighten out. We'll do our other side. So you could take shoelace where you cross your left knee over your right, adding, or that's half shoelace. Full shoelace would be bending the bottom leg. Take a square pose where you stack the left foot on top of the right and bring the right shin pretty parallel to the front of your mat. Pigeon pose and figure 4. And begin. And always remember you can try one thing and realize that's not what you wanted. Change your mind. And then really breathe. Excuse me. Oh, I've been holding that in for like the whole class. So that was a great release. If this one feels challenging at all, just deepen the breath, or always remember you can come out of it a little. You can back out. For more sensation, you can fold a little deeper, especially if you're in square. Kind of hinge forward at the hips. We're halfway through. Take just a few more breaths here. Maybe see if you can soften even more in these last few moments, especially in the jawline, crease between the forehead, and in the body. Shoulders, glutes. Take one more breath in. And sigh it away. Nice, come all the way up. Take whatever counter pose feels right for you. If that's feet in front and letting your knees drop side to side, or a downward facing dog. And then let your legs extend out. Maybe give them a little shake, shaking that out. And then let's start to make our way onto our backs. And as you come onto your back, hug your knees into your chest. Give them a big squeeze. Maybe you just take a knees wide. You could see how that feels. And start to just take your hands to your knees and make some circles with your knees. So let your knees open apart from each other, and then start to let them go forward. So you feel your tailbone reach forward and down. Draw them together as you pull them into the chest. Feel the tailbone reach back up and then open. And as you let your knees reach forward, really allow the pelvic to kind of tilt forward. And then back in, and then reverse direction. So let your knees go forward as they're together, and then let them separate, and then pull them up and in, and just moving the knees in some circles, but kind of feeling this from the pelvic region. And then when you're ready, let your legs reach all the way down, out long, reach your arms back behind you. And this is really subtle, like no one would be able to see this. Think about reaching your right foot away from your left fingertips, like a diagonal. Reach left fingertips away from your right toes. And then release that, and then reach your left toes forward and your right hand back. So diagonally away from, reaching away from one another. And release. Let your arms come all the way down by your sides. Palms can face up. Shavasana. If there's any props you want to use to support yourself, especially if your low back feels like it needs some support, place a bolster under your knees. Allow your feet, your legs to just feel heavy, like they're just not doing anything at all. You can sway open, or however your feet just naturally splay. If you could imagine that you're just falling asleep. Relax the glutes, your low back, your hip flexors. Let your belly just be soft. Breath moving steadily back to its natural rhythm. And arms relaxed, neck soft, throat open. Eyes heavy. Forehead smooth. Shavasana. Whenever you feel ready, you can start to bring some movement back into the body. You can start just by wiggling the toes and the fingers. Maybe just letting your head rock from side to side. And on your next inhale, take a big stretch, reach the arms back, legs out long. And then exhale, pull the knees back up into the chest. Maybe wrap your arms around your legs. Give yourself a big hug. And rock a little side to side. And just eventually roll over onto your left side in a little fetal position. Just giving yourself a moment there. Maybe taking a breath in and a breath out. And then slowly rise up into a seat where we'll seal our practice together. You might take an inhale and roll the shoulders up towards the ears and then roll them down the back. Now let's place hands at heart center. And we'll end this class with one Om. We'll take a cleansing breath. Inhale through the nose. Open mouth, exhale. Inhale the Om. Om. And from my heart to each of yours, I humbly bow. Thank you so much.